Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we're excited to start our third season talking about text, which focuses on creatives who work on music with text. We'll be talking to lyricists, singers, and of course, composers. Today we are joined by Jennifer Higdon. Thank you so very much for agreeing to do this interview with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, really.
Yeah. Your parents exposed you to many different art forms as a child, but you didn't begin formal musical studies until you were 18. How did that early engagement and later education shape who you are as an artist and how you think about composition?
That's a good question. I've long pondered this. I think the fact that I grew up around art all the time, because my dad was always, not only was he doing commercial art, he basically worked at home, which meant I was really
Mm,
absorbed in art making. But he also made experimental videos with first an 8 millimeter camera and then a 16. And
mm.
I remember my mom did painting in some abstract quilts, which is kind of an odd thing. But they were always taking my brother and myself to puppet shows, film festivals. They were big on exposing to us as much different art as possible. So I think living in that environment, you just don't ever think about the world, what it would be like not to be an artist.
Yeah, yeah.
It somehow seems like, I mean, when I think about it, my younger brother, Andy, who's not here anymore, he did art related
Sorry.
things. Yeah, drawing. And my other brother, Key, who I think a lot of people don't know, I've got a brother who lives in Los Angeles. He's into videography. So it
Oh,
feels like art has just kind of been my universe from probably day one in reality. So,
mm,
but that kind of also empowers you as a young student to think, okay, I want to be an artist. What do I need to do? And in a way, I guess I was learning lessons all along because my dad was one of the first freelance artists to work at
mm.
home. He had commenced advertising agencies in Atlanta to allow him to work at home and bring things in. And they were very hesitant at first because it used to be the creative divisions and art agencies, any kind of advertising agency they'd have their own section on
Yeah.
the same corporate floor, but it didn't occur to them to allow the artists to work away self-employed and just bring things in.
Hmm.
So I remember my dad was talking about, I remember picking him up when he worked in a corporate office. He'd go in with like a shirt and tie, but now I think about that and it seems totally comical. I mean, I must have been 5 when we were picking him up, but most of my life when I was at home, he had a studio in the house.
That's
So
fabulous. Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
ideal actually.
I think so. I mean, creating when you're in your own space and you can shut out other things or let them in as you wish, you
Yes. Like the cats.
know, like,
Like the cats. Or they
right.
push their way in. Yes.
Yeah. It's interesting though. What drew you to music?
Boy, that's a really good question. It's obvious going back and looking at my drawings from when I was like 5 and 6 that even though I didn't know anything about music, I obviously was headed in that direction because we found this little booklet that I had made out of paper that I had made like a real booklet. I had cut it
Hmm.
all the pages out and I had folded them and stapled them. But inside this booklet was a music staff
Oh my goodness.
with the treble clef and some notes. I mean, it's when I found it. At that point, I was a professional musician. I was a little shocked, but it's so
The
something. I remember we always had music on in the house because my
hmm
dad would be working at home, and it wasn't a ton of classical music. It was much more pop. It was,
hmm
and at that time, we're talking 60s pop. So Beatles, Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul and Mary, the Kingston
classics.
Trio.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So early reggae. I remember he had some of the early reggae in
Oh
Bob
wow.
Dylan's basement tapes. But that kind of music, because he had speakers in his studio, that's actually what I grew up around. But I remember thinking when I was like really, really young, like kindergarten age, that music was powerful. I don't know where this came from, but some seed was planted. But my parents never made me take lessons or anything like that. So
Interesting.
it's a bit of a mystery.
I think it's those kinds of things where the person's spirit is going that direction. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I took lessons and so forth, but there are pictures of me at, a Hammond organ, and I'm maybe age 3 and my little legs are dangling, and I'm
Yes.
probably just pounding along, but the die was cast.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's actually true. Sometimes everything seems to be pointing in that direction, even though you're not aware when you're that young. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, great. You've written for a variety of instrumental forces, both with and without voice. Do you approach writing for voice differently from other instruments? And how does writing with text and or for large scale versus small scale forces change how you approach composition, if at all?
Yeah, it changes everything. First of all, I do approach writing with text differently than straight instrumental writing
Hmm.
because the text gives you kind of a shape and a form.
Definitely.
So that's a little built in. And I also think about what do I need to do in the text to kind of emphasize or maybe underline what the text is saying. I remember doing a series of poems um, for Sasha
Hmm.
Cook it was about summer, different aspects of summer. And I remember I had one that was about summer showers, and what I ended up doing was actually making the piano part sound like drops falling randomly. But I
Right.
also had her make those sounds as well with her voice before she started singing words.
Ah,
So she was making, so I always think about what the text is saying and where it needs to draw attention, a particular thing. So a good example of that is I just did something for, and this was the first for me, for narrator
hmm.
and string quartet. And it's a, I had to stop and think about voice again. How do you write this to cue it? The simple technical things. But I also thought about what kind of music needs to sit underneath different
Hmm.
aspects of the text. So this was a text about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice. So
Hmm.
I knew that some of the music, the character needed to have kind of that profound thing. She was a very profound, very brilliant woman. If you ever talked to her, I mean, you knew within seconds how smart, you could feel it emanating off of her. But I also addressed her relationship with her husband, which was pretty famous. She
Hmm.
never cooked, he always did the cooking. They had a very equal partnership at a time when that just did not exist.
Happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so but the music needed to be different for that aspect of the piece. It didn't need to be kind of the judicial sound, which to
Hmm.
me sounded much more kind of profound and I don't know, I guess have more emphasis. And I think for her husband Martin, I wrote music that was much gentler because their
Ah,
relationship, they worked so well together, and it really was an equal relationship way before this was a thing. This was at a time when there was like no women on judicial
yeah,
benches
yeah.
at all. So yeah, so it was kind of, but it really made me think. And the process of writing an opera is extraordinarily different than writing like art songs.
Mm.
They're very, very different. I just completed a set of art songs on Benjamin Franklin's texts, um,
Hmm.
and they wanted some lighter stuff, so I had some comical things. But when you're writing an opera, you really have to think about how are you going to underline these characters with music so that when they
Hmm.
come back repeatedly on the stage, you have a psychological sense through the music of what this person is like.
Right.
And I remember when I was doing my first opera, Cold Mountain. I approached it in a way. There was one character who was just awful. He was an awful person. He was always killing people, and
Mm.
so I didn't tell anyone this, but in the percussion section, I would use sounds that were close to a rattlesnake sound.
Ooh,
And so I just had that
nice.
running under his music, because this guy seemed like a snake to me. So you can really think about down to real detail about what to put under, but you've got to set it so that the words can be understood. And
Thank you.
so that,
Yes.
yes, and also so it respects the voice in terms of certain words are just awkward to sing. And in
Yep.
certain ranges, they're really awkward. So I worry about that a lot. And when I'm writing instrumental, I have to change it up because the fact is I've got no guidance from the text, one. And two, the instruments are different.
Yeah.
What's loud, what doesn't sound like strong range versus what sounds like strong range. Certain people have to breathe more quickly than others. You have to think
Hmm.
about that
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Hmm.
You can't have brass playing all the time. They have to have actual breaks. So
Right.
there are a million little things you think about, but the words, I find it intriguing setting words in different settings, song, opera, and now narrating, which that was really tricky. I was surprised how hard that was.
Yeah, I've moved over the last few years to doing things where I'm narrating either between or in. I'm finding it fascinating, but
Yeah.
but you're right. The last one I did, we just had to mic it to make sure that the voice was heard in the loud sections, you
That's the
know.
thing, and I always try to be really careful. I was very fortunate when Cold Mountain, my first opera, was done. I may be the first composer ever to have under orchestrated where people were singing. We had to boost the sound of the
Oh,
orchestra.
wow.
I've never heard of that happen, especially on a first opera. Usually everyone overwrites, but
Yes, yes,
I think I
yes.
was so paranoid of doing that that I kind of went under. Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was, yeah. Yes, I know. I think there's a reason for that, and then I think it's because I used to perform on flute, and I can remember struggling against pieces, and I was really struck
Ah,
by that. I thought a composer shouldn't be writing something that the performer has to struggle against. You should be writing in a way that helps the performer sound good and make sense of what they're doing because you're not helping your case when you're making music that is tough to deal with. It becomes a wrestling match. The
yes.
composer's not going to get a very good experience out of it. And I think I struggled through so much music that it immediately imbued in me a sense of responsibility to do well by the performer. I mean, that's really it's imperative for me. But I think I went through playing enough new music that was not very friendly. So I think about that a lot.
Well, thank you. And that makes sense. I've actually sung pieces by composers where they say, well, yes, we want that sound, or we want it, or you've got that down there. And I'm like, but it doesn't feel good and I don't like
Yeah,
it.
I know. It's really, and you really do have to think about it. I think it's important, but and I think it's the ultimate compliment. If I've had a couple people come up to me and say, you're a performer's composer, and I think
Yes.
that's like just the most incredible compliment a composer can get.
Well, having sung a bit of your music, I would echo that. You are a performer's composer.
Oh,
So
thank you. I love that compliment. It's really incredible.
now you're welcome. It sounds like you're thinking more and more about text more recently. Do you have at this point a favorite child?
Oh, no, not really. Every single one of them was an adventure. And you're gonna laugh when you hear this. I just started thinking when I finished these songs for Lyric Fest in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
I thought to myself, oh, I'm finally getting the hang of writing for voices and text, which is ironic. I've had two operas go up, and a whole slew of songs, so it's pretty
Yeah.
funny that I'm saying that, but I really feel like I'm just starting to get there, literally.
Well, I think that humility probably characterizes you, but you're under singing your own praises there.
Yeah.
So I am curious in terms of text, have you ever found a text that just won't work to be set to music, or kind of the flip side of that, that says what it says it's such a pearl, it's so perfect in its own format and genre that it shouldn't be set or resists being set. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are lots of texts I've seen that I thought, ooh, that doesn't look like it would sing very well. But
Thank you.
I know as a composer, you also have to make sure the text is resonating with you.
Mm,
Because if you're not having an emotional response, it's hard to create an emotional response in the music.
mm-hmm,
So I don't know that I've ever said a text that I thought, oh, this is awful. I can remember being around awful characters in the operas because
mm-hmm.
both of my operas had dark
Villains.
characters that made
Yeah.
me feel, yeah, they made me feel ill every time I had to write for them. And but I have yet to run across something that I thought, oh, I can't set this. It's too People ask me that all the time, and I don't know that feeling yet, so I don't think it's happened to me yet. But there's got to be stuff out there that to me, I would look at it and go, oh, oh yeah, that's perfect as it is.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I need to have that happen so I can experience it because I don't have a context. But there's
Yeah.
got to be stuff out there that is perfect as it is. Ned Rorem used to say that all the time to the students at
Ah.
Curtis. He would talk about, this poem is perfect. We don't, it doesn't need music. And I'm like, well, how do you decide what needs music and what doesn't? I'm like putting music on everything. So it's,
No sense of gilding the lily here.
I know. It's very interesting. So I know there are texts out there that would fit in that category. Somehow I just haven't bumped into any of them.
Well, good. That's good. That's a great answer. Thank you for listening to For Good Measure, and a special thank you to our guest, Jennifer Higdon, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible by grants from the California Arts Council, the San Francisco Arts Commission, Grants for the Arts, and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to co-producer and audio engineer Stephanie M. Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts and tune in next week for Good Measure.